Liu Naiyin dedicated her entire life to crafting a time machine, just to return and salvage her first love. I silently followed her back to the past, watching her gradually learn how to love. Yet she took the hand of her first love, gently saying that before I didn't understand what love was, and had hurt your heart. Now I finally understand. On the second day after returning from the journey through time, I met Liu Naiyin at T. Triot's birthday party. She held a cake she made herself, and a carefully chosen gift. Stepping into the party room, the candlelight glowed warmly, stirring hearts. Liu Naiyin's eyes brimmed with affection. A sweet atmosphere instantly spread. Everyone gathered around, waiting for T. Triot to make a wish and blow out the candles. We excitedly shouted kiss kiss. I stood quietly at the edge of the crowd, watching T. Triot hold the gift in his hands, lowering his head to look at Liu Naiyin's cheeks, gently kissing her on the cheek, then introducing her. This is T. Triot's girlfriend, truly a beauty. Not only that, she's incredibly thoughtful and gentle, meticulously caring, always keeping her distance from other guys, almost flawless without a single imperfection. In silent observation, I saw Liu Naiyin smile tenderly at T. Triot. After withdrawing her gaze, Nini said to her best friend that she had truly matured and become reliable, knowing how to care for others. After all, it was the result of 5 years of my painstaking effort teaching her bit by bit. The Liu Naiyin from the beginning was completely different. She had a bad temper, impatient, impulsive, and quick to anger, irritable and arrogant. Her relationship with T. Triot lasted less than 2 years, ultimately ending when T. Triot erupted in dissatisfaction. Unwilling to accept it, Liu Naiyin ended up falling for his friend. And so, she spent years building a time machine. She learned how to love as I had taught her, but she didn't hesitate to leave me behind. I returned to the time of our second year in college when T. Triot was her first love, even staying one more day. We have marked the 5th anniversary of our time together, but she couldn't wait. Now we've become complete strangers. The star of the birthday party was now T. Triot. Everyone gathered around him and Liu Naiyin, talking about them animatedly, discussing how to find a perfect girlfriend like her. Someone asked Liu Naiyin if she had any friends as beautiful as her. Even more amusing, someone jokingly said they'd heard a saying about the one who plants the tree and the one who enjoys its shade. Liu Naiyin so thoughtful and gentle. Could it be that her ex-boyfriend taught her to be this way? Hearing these words, Liu Naiyin still smiled faintly, then tightly grasped T. Triot's hand, as if confessing her love, yet also as if staying silent. A Triot is my first love, and the only one I've ever loved deeply. There is no ex. Naiyin, of course, has no ex, because Liu Naiyin and I only got together in the second year after their breakup. We were together. I wasn't her ex, but the one who came after. Yet that didn't stop her from using the way she loved to teach me. All her tenderness poured onto T. Triot. In the party room, light and shadow intertwined. The crowd flickered in and out. From start to finish, she never noticed me in the corner until the cake was cut. T. Triot handed out slices. While introducing his friends to her, Liu Naiyin appeared before me. The moment our eyes met, I couldn't describe the expression on her face when she saw me. The smile on her lips froze. Her eyes revealed a trace of unease, but she quickly regained her composure, and under T. Triot's introduction said, "This is Fang Vian, my classmate." She stared at me like a messenger of the gods. I maintained a measured smile. Liu Naiyin looked at T. Triot, tilting her head, furrowing her brow, asking, "What's wrong? Do you two know each other?" Only then did she snap back to reality, handing me a slice of cake. She coldly said, "We don't know each other." I took the cake and sat on a single sofa. My gaze fell on Liu Naiyin, who had returned to the crowd. Under the flickering light, she was captivating and graceful. Her brow exuded elegance. She was truly breathtakingly beautiful, especially those deep inky eyes. When focused on someone, they always carried an innocent yet passionate charm. So during the 5 years with her, no matter how angry or heartbroken I was, as long as I saw her face, her quietly looking at me, softly calling my name Fang Vian. I would immediately surrender, easily forgiving her. The small slice of cake in my hand emitted a faint orange blossom scent. My roommate's spoon in mouth mumbled, calling out Fang Vian, "Hurry and try it. It's absolutely delicious." She really put her heart into it. It seems my standards for choosing a girlfriend need one more criterion. The corner of my mouth curved slightly. I lowered my head and took a small bite. The familiar flavor was something I taught Liu Nain to make. It took half a month, guiding her patiently step by step. She said, "Fang Vian, once I've learned this, I'll bake a cake for you every year on your birthday." In the end, she learned, but never made one for me. In fact, in the previous life, the first time I met Liu Nain wasn't at this birthday party. In truth, T-Trite and I weren't close. He invited the whole class to his birthday party. I hadn't planned to go, but my roommate dragged me along for fun. Last time I only stayed briefly, gave my gift and left. So I miss Liu Nain, who arrived late. That night back at the dorm, I only heard my roommate say I left too early and didn't meet T-Trite's girlfriend. That girl was truly a rare beauty, just seemed a bit cold. Throughout the party, both of them appeared somewhat impatient, despite their different personalities. In terms of looks, they were a perfect match. I wasn't curious about others, especially not about some guy's girlfriend. I couldn't care less. After hearing it, I only thought about it fleetingly and didn't pay attention to his affairs, nor did I ask her name. It wasn't until later, when I was with Liu Nain and accidentally saw a photo in her study, that I realized she was the beauty I never met back then. T-Trite's girlfriend. Even so, I didn't mind. After all, everyone has a past. But now we've returned to that moment. Each life is changing. Almost everyone praised Liu Nain. Perhaps because the atmosphere was too lively, it made me in the corner feel even more alone. An indescribable mood. Unconsciously, I drank a few glasses of fruit wine. In a light daze, time blurred the lines between reality and time travel. I stood up and went to the balcony to sober up. When I returned after clearing my head, the crowd had dispersed. As my fingers touched the door of the party room, I saw Liu Nain kneeling beside a drunken T-Trite, holding his hand, gently saying, "Before I didn't know how to love someone and hurt your heart. Now I understand." Liu Nain had an extraordinary talent for learning. As long as she wanted to learn, she could master anything. So after that birthday party, I often heard about the things Liu Nain did for T-Trite, like deboning fish for him during meals, like making gifts by hand to surprise him romantically, occasionally even attending classes with T-Trite, and our intersection after returning from time travel. Besides T-Trite's birthday party, today was another miracle. My roommate and T-Trite were in the same guitar club. They needed to go on a team-building hike. He begged me to come along to take photos, saying it was a brother's request. He really liked how I composed shots and promised to treat me to a feast afterward. Under his persistent pleading, I agreed. So I carried my camera and followed him to the meeting point. I saw Liu Nain accompanying T-Trite. She wore a black and white sports outfit, standing in the crowd, slightly tilting her head, listening attentively to T-Trite. Perhaps my gaze lingered on her, making me realize. Before she turned to look at me, I calmly averted my eyes. My roommate exaggeratedly bragged to everyone, introducing my photography skills. A self-taught photographer, with perfect angles and lighting, a master of composition, making me laugh. I turned to the smiling group, politely saying, "Just an amateur photographer. If you need, I can help take photos for you." During the rest of the trip, people traded snacks for my photo taking, until T-Trite pulled Liu Nain over and asked Fang Vian, "Can you take a picture for us?" I held the camera, smiling and nodding, finding a good angle, aiming the lens at them. But before I could press the shutter, my roommate beside me loudly asked Liu Nain, "Why aren't you smiling? Look at Fang Vian's smile." I quietly waited. Liu Nain forced an awkward smile. I quickly snapped a few shots. Later, on the way back, we sat on the bus reviewing the photos, receiving cheerful praise from everyone. Finally, we flipped to a few photos my roommate took of me. They were actually pretty good. But in one of them, the lens inadvertently captured someone passing behind me. That person wore a light green jacket. A girl with crescent-shaped smiling eyes, as if greeting everyone. Amid the noise, someone pointed at the photo and said, "There's a classic saying online. How does it go?" To people with no connection, yet locked together in one frame. Perhaps in another space we truly knew each other. Hearing him say that, the smile on my face slowly faded. He wasn't wrong. I really did know this girl. Her name was Ha Kim, my first love. In truth, I hadn't seen her in a long time. Since she left on our second anniversary, my life seemed to freeze on that day. Trapped in stagnation, suspended in midair, and now time seemed to reverse. We had never known each other. My thoughts were pulled back by a sudden break. The camera in my hand fell due to inertia. Liu Nain quickly caught it. After a moment of tension, I calmed down. As I was about to approach her, I saw her staring at that photo. But she suddenly turned surprised, calling out Liu Nain. "She looks so much like you." I didn't know what to say. In the moment, her fingers tightened slightly. She seemed to realize something, but she was truly just a substitute. Being with Liu Nain was actually her idea, but I knew clearly in my heart, Liu Nain was absolutely not Ha Kim. No matter how similar, it didn't matter. So when we first got together, I was filled with guilt and unease. After all, my initial intention was only to see her face, until she accidentally learned that my first love was Ha Kim. When drunk, she once said, "When I learn how to love someone, it'll come find you." At that moment, I suddenly understood. She had told me she didn't know how to love. "Can you teach me how to love you?" Her meaning was clear. She didn't love me. Each of us was just taking what we needed. So I confidently treated her as a substitute. Without a shred of guilt, I wanted to transfer the love Ha Kim had for me onto her. I finally understood. In many wuxia films, when the protagonist's lover dies, illusions still make people indulge. Even knowing it's not the real lover, I willingly immersed myself. This was no different from Don Kai's longing. But fate loves to play tricks. Just when I wanted to let go the most, it let me see him. Scattered documents in the study spoke of cosmic abyss, black holes, the speed of light, the Nakajima effect, and the reverse flow of time. A line in a time traveler's diary, seemingly written in haste. A time traveler can only return to their own body in the past. My heartbeat suddenly quickened. In my mind, a shocking conjecture emerged. After being with Liu Nain, the deepest impression she left wasn't her inability to love, but her absolute intelligence. Degrees and trophies hung all over the wall. The radiant halo of a physics genius shone brilliantly, by chance, illuminating her glorious and smooth journey, also making her carry an uncontrollable pride, completely unaware of how to lower herself to love someone in a relationship, until she parted with Ha Trite. That was the only equation she couldn't solve. She stubbornly sought the answer, but fell into an endless spiral of chaos. Honestly, I didn't understand why Liu Nain had such a deep obsession with Ha Trite. This was still a failure in her life. I wasn't sure if she was as I thought, whether she could reverse time and return to the past, nor was I certain if she could succeed. But what if? So I pretended not to care, still staying by her side year after year. The time with her was even longer than with Ha Trite. Until the day before our 5th anniversary, I called her. "Liu Nain, come back and talk with us." I had resolved to break up. Unexpectedly, she was silent for a long time on the other end, finally softly saying, "5 years. Perhaps I can't stay with you any longer." Sorry, I frowned and said no, but the call had already been cut off. I was stunned for a moment, realizing she seemed to have made up her mind. So I hurriedly ran to her empty laboratory. And just like that, we went from lovers to strangers. She perfectly completed her test, becoming the ideal girlfriend in everyone's eyes. While I found the chance to save Ha Kim, I could change her destined fate. Just like how I didn't care about Liu Nain's past with Ha Trite, without a shred of concern, she also didn't care who I had been with. So I knew clearly in my heart, Liu Nain would never know. Hawkeye Kim was my secret first love. When the camera returned to my hands, she didn't say a word, just quietly looked out the window. I didn't have time to care about Liu Nain's existence. My gaze was drawn to the photos, my mind filled with Hawkeye Kim's image, suddenly realizing, even though I tried to maintain the trajectory of the previous life, hoping to meet her for the first time at the party, the current trajectory had shifted due to countless small changes, like the photo of her in this lens, or the next day in a public class, when she sat down beside me. Someone once said about music and scents, they truly evoke memories. When Hawkeye Kim sat down, in that moment, her familiar scent hit me instantly. All emotions surged straight to my heart. The lingering pain followed. I sat stiffly at the desk, letting past memories flood like breaking waves, intertwined with romantic scenes and vivid moments. Until the final second before that accident, she turned the steering wheel toward me, then vanished before my eyes. At the moment I loved her most, the teacher's question interrupted my thoughts. He called my name. In the quiet classroom, I was dazed for a while before standing up, unable to utter a single word, because I hadn't heard a thing. I remembered this teacher. He was a famous figure in the academy, always fond of calling on students who couldn't answer, to let others help. So, I stood silently for half a minute. The teacher scanned the students with their heads down, slowly asking if anyone was willing to help. At the moment of response, I still hadn't fully recovered from the sadness. In a daze, I thought if no one stood up, it wouldn't be so bad. I just stood there. When I lowered my head, I could glance at Hawkeye Kim beside me with the corner of my eye. Without her noticing, her slender fingers casually rested on a black pen, idly flipping through a few pages of the book. Suddenly she stood up, loudly saying I'm willing. What surprised me slightly was, the teacher pushed up his glasses, looking up and asking the student behind, are you also helping with the question? Hawkeye Kim and I turned around almost simultaneously, seeing to rows behind, Liu Nain, who came to class with Ha Trite. She stood up too. Countless eyes immediately turned to her. She didn't look at me, just calmly looked forward, saying no, I'm going to the restroom. The one who saved me by going to the restroom was Hawkeye Kim. As I sat down, turning to thank her, I suddenly saw her quietly tilt her head, softly saying to me, classmate, your eyes are so red. Did you just cry? It's just not answering a question. Don't cry. Facing her sudden closeness, I was stunned for a moment before slowly reacting, telling her my red eyes were from soreness, not from failing to answer the question. Then I used gratitude as an excuse to invite Kai Kim to dinner. After class, I took her to a nearby beef noodle shop, skillfully ordering 2 bowls of beef noodles, no green onions. When I turned back, I saw Hawkeye Kim smiling at me, asking how I knew she didn't like green onions either. I was at a loss, not knowing how to answer. Hearing her continue, though I don't know what you were thinking when you ordered, and accidentally mentioned my preference, I still need to introduce myself a bit. She extended her right hand, looking at me seriously, saying, hello, classmate Fang Vian. I'm Hawkeye Kim, a first-year medical student. I knew she studied at the medical school nearby, and that she was actually here to help a friend. And this noodle shop happened to be between our 2 universities, the place we frequented most in the previous life. Though 2 years had passed, I still remembered clearly. The last time we came here was the 2nd year after Hawkeye Kim's departure. In psychology, there's a concept called the defense mechanism of emotional isolation. It protects the brain when facing extreme grief. So when I first faced Hawkeye Kim's departure, realizing I could never see her again, nor hear her voice, I felt numb, calm to the point of feeling nothing. Looking at the grayscale photo on her tombstone, I couldn't shed a single tear. But every quiet night I could hardly sleep, vividly recalling every scene from the past. Until an ordinary evening, I came to this noodle shop, out of habit ordering 2 bowls of beef noodles with green onions. When the food was served, I looked at the empty chair across from me. Tears suddenly streamed down. The emotions suppressed for so long were like a dam bursting, followed by pain spreading from my heart to my entire body. Tears wouldn't stop falling. In the end, I forced myself to finish the bowl of noodles. But in my grief, I swallowed everything. Since then, I never returned to this noodle shop. But fortunately, now I've returned to the starting point. The accident hasn't happened. Hawkeye Kim is still alive. Everything can change. I looked at the hand in front of me and gently held it, seriously explaining to her. It wasn't because I thought of someone's preference and slipped up. Talking about two bowls. Kai Kim tilted her head and smiled. What a coincidence. Let's always order two bowls from now on. In the end, Hawkeye Kim paid. Under my surprised gaze, she smiled and scanned her phone to pay, casually saying add me on WeChat so I can transfer it back. I added her WeChat, but the transfer was returned. She said, this meal's on me, can you help me with something? They had a volunteer activity and invited me to take photos. A week later, I carried my camera and followed her to a nearby community, capturing her as she examined patients. In the photos, Hawkeye Kim patiently answered questions for the residents, measuring blood pressure and glucose for the elderly, chatting with children. The midday sunlight fell on her white blouse, as if cloaking her in a gentle layer of light, radiant yet warm. Liu Na-in was like a proud flower atop a mountain, while Hawkeye Kim was the warm autumn sunlight. They were entirely different existences from the start. Near the end of the event, everyone was chatting with the elderly and children. I saw Hawkeye Kim surrounded by a group of kids. Getting closer, I saw her making stick figures with them. The children's tender calls of sister rang out continuously, making people unable to hold back a smile. She held the crisp bamboo sticks, her slender fingers deftly threading and knotting strings, then handing them out to the kids. This one's for little LCC Vian. This one's for little T Thing. I casually snapped a few photos. While looking down to review them, I suddenly heard Hawkeye Kim's voice. Looking up, I saw her holding an intricately made stick figure, handing it to me, joking that everyone who sees gets a share. This one's for little Fang Vian. After that, I met Hawkeye Kim a few times, becoming friends who could eat together. When I joined a sunset photography contest, she helped me gather votes. And when we played with clay together, she earnestly sculpted internal organs. At that moment, the couple across from us finally managed to sculpt a perfect pair of hearts. She proudly held up the heart in her hand, saying, "Look, this is a perfect heart." I put down the messy limbs in my hand, giving an awkward smile to the silly couple across, then pulled Hawkeye Kim to another table. She also took me to meet her senior brothers and sisters, pointing at those who had taken off their blouses, introducing each one to me. Looking at the familiar faces, I politely greeted them, remembering that petite, beautiful senior sister, who turned into a cool motorcycle racer after taking off her blouse, and that calm senior brother, who was actually a top player in the esports world, regarding my appearance. And when Hawkeye Kim introduced me as her friend Fang Vian, they looked at me with kind eyes, smiling brightly. Honestly, they didn't say anything, but it felt like they said everything. My ears grew slightly warm. Hawkeye Kim stood in front of me, softly asking her seniors to spare me. They propped their chins, still smiling mischievously at me. Everyone said, "Call us senior brother and sister and you're one of us." Later, I became close friends with them. We played script-killing games together, attended inter-school music festivals. I immersed myself in this light and joyful life, sometimes forgetting I was a time traveler, until I met Liu Na-in again. Perhaps because during that time, all my attention was focused on Hawkeye Kim. My roommate's gossip was automatically tuned out. When I saw Liu Na-in, I suddenly realized it had been a long time since I heard her name. At an outdoor barbecue stall on a summer night, I was with Hawkeye Kim and her senior brothers and sisters, playing Truth or Dare. Suddenly, I felt a strong gaze directed at me. I instinctively turned my head to search, and met Liu Na-in's eyes. She was sitting with Ha Trite and another couple at a nearby table. Ha Trite was holding her hand, talking and laughing happily, but the girl across from him looked tense, silent and unspeaking. The originally harmonious atmosphere took on a strange tint. Liu Nein's gaze on me made me feel extremely uncomfortable. Fortunately, the girl opposite Hotrite suddenly stood up, saying she wasn't eating anymore and turned to leave, clearly in a bad mood. I held the chicken drumstick Hawkeye Kim handed me, hearing Hotrite lean into Liu Nein, slightly drunk, walking and calling her name. I love you the most. As they passed by us, my gaze briefly swept over them, noticing in Hotrite's actions and words a genuine deep affection for Liu Nein, but she seemed unhappy. This doubt went unanswered. Hotrite and she broke up, and my guider playing roommate, during evening gossip sessions, spread the news. Sighing deeply, it's really heartbreaking. Did you all know? Hotrite and Liu Nein broke up. The pen in my hand paused. I suddenly remembered a night in the previous life. My roommate said the same thing. Hotrite and his girlfriend broke up. Back then he mentioned Hotrite, criticizing Liu Nein for not knowing how to love, growing tired of the relationship, decisively proposing a breakup. Not long after, their friends posted about a new relationship, but the current Liu Nein was clearly called the perfect girlfriend by everyone. I couldn't understand why they broke up. My roommate's explanation was, Hotrite felt Liu Nein was like a pre-programmed robot, loving without any excitement. Then my roommate opened their social circle, showing everyone that he had announced a new girlfriend, and she was none other than Liu Nein's friend. Seeing that post, I was stunned for a moment. It was the girl from that night, at the barbecue stall in a bad mood. Later, I heard my roommate say mysteriously, the truth is, Hotrite never liked Liu Nein. Being with her was only to make his childhood sweetheart jealous. He wanted her to feel the sting of jealousy. That childhood friend was Liu Nein's friend, now his new girlfriend. So whether Liu Nein knew how to love or not, Hotrite never cared, because they were bound to break up. And Liu Nein thought she found the truth, only to discover she was terribly mistaken. As exclamations of surprise arose, another roommate asked, did Liu Nein just agree like that? Didn't she try to hold on? Does she really love Hotrite that much? But no one mentioned this. She calmly accepted all attempts to keep her, feeling nothing was unreasonable in her heart. Her subconscious didn't want to face this truth. This made me feel that what's meant to come will come. This feeling peaked a week after meeting Liu Nein again. That day at the city's large shopping mall, I encountered a lost child, took him to the broadcasting station, and stayed to wait for his mother. But the mother who arrived was an elegant, beautiful woman, wearing an expensive dark green cheongsam. Slowly approaching, she held the child's hand, gently saying, my son, thank you, then invited me to a tea house downstairs for a cup of tea. I declined several times, but was still pulled along by her guilt-driven excuse. Walking past a carved wooden screen, I saw Liu Nein in a beige sweater, sitting at a square table, holding a cup of green tea. Distant memories were instantly awakened, though the timing didn't match. But the first time I met Liu Nein was because I found this child. Only the one who came to the broadcasting station to pick up the child. She was my cousin's daughter who rarely returned to the country. Liu Nein's parents were both scientific researchers, often absent from her side. She lived alone since childhood, always cold. During the 5 years with her, I almost never met her family. So this cousin and her daughter, I only met once. Over time, I gradually forgot about them. Unexpectedly, this time the situation repeated, but with slight changes. The child's mother said, this is the cousin she arranged to meet hide and seek. Then explained to Liu Nein, this young man is Fang Vian, the one who helped find your son. As her words fell, Liu Nein set down her teacup, slowly saying, I know him. I couldn't describe my mood at that moment. After learning that Liu Nein and I were classmates, the child's mother said in surprise, what a coincidence. Then her gaze wavered between me and Liu Nein. One studies physics, one studies finance. How did you two meet? The atmosphere instantly quieted. I shifted my gaze from the gently swaying teacup across, softly replying, we're just acquaintances. She's my friend's girlfriend. I met her once. Liu Nain added they broke up. Now she's an ex-girlfriend. Perhaps sensing my lack of interest, the child's mother stopped asking me. Turning to chat with Liu Nain, I casually picked up a tea snack, focusing on teasing the little girl beside me, not paying attention to their conversation, until just before the end. I heard the child's mother ask with a hint of meaning, Liu Nain, this time you've returned, you seem to have changed a lot. Your temperament is much gentler. What's the reason? Because of the guy you broke up with. Liu Nain gently shook her head. No, he didn't like me and I didn't like him. But you still seem very sad. Liu Nain was silent for a few seconds. Her voice lowered, as if realizing I missed someone who truly liked me. Her words left me unsettled. I didn't want to admit it. But from then on, our encounters became ordinary. Not only stuck under the same roof during the rain, we also quietly sat together during meals. Even the campus orange cat one day suddenly ran to her feet. So many coincidences stopped being coincidences. I started going out less, stopped eating at the cafeteria, and stopped feeding the orange cat. After some time, Liu Nain appeared in the library hallway I often visited. She seemed puzzled, asking me, Fang Vian, are you avoiding me? In truth, I was avoiding her. After all, facing her again, we no longer had any connection, nor did I want one. So I calmly replied, then why are you standing here questioning me? As what? My friend's ex-girlfriend. She looked up at me for a long time, her face turning pale, finally turning and gesturing for me to leave. I thought someone as proud as her wouldn't seek me out again. But her breakup, our encounters, and the things bound to happen, just like in the previous life, still filled my heart with unease. I started frequently dreaming of the accident from the previous life. In the dream, I returned to our second anniversary. That day, injured from playing ball, I sat in the passenger seat, chatting with Hawkeye Kim, who was driving, about a travel show we recently watched, talking about future travel plans. Kai Kim quietly listened to me, occasionally looking at me with gentle eyes, softly replying, all right, I'll follow you. When talking about how to celebrate each anniversary, a truck suddenly ran a red light charging across the road. There weren't many cars or pedestrians on the road. A light brake would have avoided the tragedy. Unfortunately, the brakes failed. Hawkeye Kim decisively turned the steering wheel toward me, leaving me the chance to survive. After the violent crash, I lost consciousness for a few seconds. When I opened my eyes, I found myself in a cabin filled with the stench of blood. In pain, unable to speak, in my blurry vision, I saw a long shard embedded in Hawkeye Kim's chest. She weakly begged the people around to save her, begging them to save me. Then I was pulled out through the broken window. Before passing out, the last image I saw was the moment the car exploded. The investigation results were quickly announced. Besides the truck, due to the driver's fatigue and running a red light, Hawkeye Kim's brake system was deliberately sabotaged. The culprit was a man in debt for tens of millions. Out of resentment towards society for his unpaid debts, the brake systems in that area were almost entirely destroyed, leading to a series of accidents during that time. The number of casualties was truly horrifying. I lay in the hospital numbly looking at the news on my phone, silently listening to the concern and comfort from Hawkeye Kim's seniors. Everyone urged me to look forward and move on, but I didn't understand if I moved on, what would happen to Hawkeye Kim? At that moment, the urgent alarm clock woke me. Opening my eyes, I stared blankly at the ceiling, feeling the corners of my eyes wet, only then realizing I was crying again. Every detail of that accident was etched deep in my heart, including the person who sabotaged the brake system. But now I was powerless. After all, before sabotaging the brakes, he was just an ordinary man drowning in debt. I didn't dare seek him out first, fearing things would get more complicated. I could only control changes within the smallest scope, waiting for the day he committed the crime. During the wait, Hawkeye Kim and I got together. In truth, before that, I had vaguely sensed she wanted to confess. The reason was one time, a sister in the photography club asked me to pretend to be her boyfriend, to fend off guys constantly bothering her. in an elegant, quiet restaurant. She hugged me, telling the guy across from us, "I really have a boyfriend. Look, case Fang Vian." My acting wasn't great. Afraid I'd slip up if I spoke, I could only try to keep a smile, nodding to play along. The next second, by chance, I heard a voice from behind a frosted glass partition. It turned out Kai Kim was sitting there with her friend. She had probably witnessed everything. When our eyes met, Kai Kim quickly lowered her head, not responding to her friend's question, silently eating her meal. That night, I saw Kai Kim's post on social media, a photo of a broken heart model, with the caption "Day 2 of a broken heart." I brought her favorite apricot jam to find her, in the corridor bathed in sunset light. Kai Kim stood before me looking weary, lacking her usual radiant smile. I quietly watched her take a bite of the pastry. I asked Kai Kim, "Is it sweet?" "Not sweet, it's bitter," I nodded as if understanding, sighing inwardly, then changed the topic, saying a new roast duck place opened recently. "How about we try it together?" Kai Kim quietly looked at the ground, her voice low. "If we go eat together, want your girlfriend mind?" I pretended to be surprised, asking, "Oh, you mean that senior sister yesterday?" I was just helping her fend off suitors. How was my acting? Pretty good, right? Fooled even you. I paused for a moment, seeing Kai Kim's eyes gradually brighten. I continued, "Besides, even if I had a girlfriend, it's just eating with a friend. It shouldn't bother her. Would you mind if I had a boyfriend?" Kai Kim suddenly interrupted me, her eyes showing a hint of nervousness. We looked at each other and I gave a faint smile, blurting out, "Depends on how sweet this apricot jam is. I queued for 2 hours to buy it." Kai Kim hesitated for a moment, stuffing the remaining half of the jam into her mouth, mumbling, "It's so sweet, overwhelmingly sweet." That night, Kai Kim posted a side profile photo of me on social media, with the caption, "The rest of my life." Kai Kim and I got together like that. No dramatic confession like in idol dramas, just the closeness of our souls. From then on, we lived like any other campus couple, ordinary yet happy days, until the day before the date I marked on the calendar. In that old residential area, at 3 in the morning, a crime occurred. The brake systems were sabotaged. But that day was no longer the second anniversary of Kai Kim, and Kai Kim's car, for various reasons, wasn't parked there. In the end, I only saved the others. At first, I was very worried, fearing something unexpected would happen, but everything went smoother than expected. To avoid getting involved in the case, I reported to the police, saying I lost a watch worth 20,000 in that area, last seen at 3:30 in the morning. The police quickly checked the surveillance cameras, discovering a suspicious man appearing multiple times near several cars. The man held tools in his hand. Then the police began investigating and pursuing. This had nothing to do with me. As for the watch, the next day I told the police I found it in a trash bin. At the same time, I heard about the brake systems of many cars being sabotaged that night. The culprit had been caught, but the old story ended there. Even so, I still felt uneasy. The unease lasted until 2 weeks later, the day Kai Kim and I went to the movies. As we slowly walked through the crowd, I passed by a man with a scar on his right hand. A knife gleamed from his sleeve. He moved toward a pregnant woman. Everything happened in a flash. My reaction was faster than my thoughts. When I realized I had blocked the knife for the woman, I fell to the ground, finally understanding what I had forgotten in my heart. That scarred man in the previous life was a fugitive. He died in an accident due to faulty brakes. But in this life, the accident was prevented. He luckily survived. The surroundings became chaotic. Kai Kim knelt beside me, seeming to say something, her eyes red, but I couldn't hear anything, as if lost in fog for a long time. Finally returning to the park near the residential area at 10 years old. Back then, due to illness, I had to take hormone medication for a long time. My body became bloated and distorted. As a result, kids always surrounded me, mocking me as a chubby pig. I covered my ears trying to explain I wasn't a chubby pig. I was just sick. I would get better. But I wasn't a chubby pig. No one listened to my explanation. They laughed squatting on the ground, shouting louder, until a girl like an angel appeared. She coldly warned the kids. If anyone said another word, she'd hang them on a tree for birds to poop on. After they screamed and ran off, the girl sat down in front of me. I didn't dare look up. She gently comforted me, "Don't be afraid. It chased them all away." I slowly raised my head, looking at her gentle face, softly saying to her sister, "I'm not a chubby pig. I'm just sick." She smiled tenderly at me. "Yes, I know you're just sick. You'll get better." From that day, every time I went to the park, I saw her jogging. Though no one wanted to play with me, only she was willing to stay by my side. She was so beautiful. It made me feel inferior. I couldn't help asking, "Sister, what if I never get better?" She gently patted my head. "Then I'll become a doctor and make sure to cure you." We were only together for 11 days. That was the last thing she said to me. Then I heard her mother calling from afar. "Hawkeye Kim, come home for dinner." The next day, my father was found cheating. My mother took me and moved away immediately. From then on, I never saw Hawkeye Kim again until she became a medical student, standing in the crowd, still as beautiful and radiant as before, and my illness had healed. Later, because of a party, we unexpectedly met again, understood each other, and got together. The person I secretly loved for nearly 10 years also liked me, but before I could ask if she remembered me, she was gone. This time I only wanted to scare her a little. If this was the price to pay, I was willing to bear it. I returned to that door I could never open. In a haze, it seemed someone was whispering beside me, but I couldn't respond. Faintly hearing Hawkeye Kim's voice, she seemed helplessly asking, her voice hoarse, "I learned so many things. Why couldn't I save you? Teacher, what should I do?" When I woke again, the hospital room was quiet. Someone was sitting by the bed. I used all my strength, only managing to open my eyes slightly, vaguely seeing a face that sometimes looked like Hawkeye Kim, sometimes like Liu Nain. I tried to look for a long time. If she hadn't spoken, I wouldn't have time traveled back. Would that have caused a butterfly effect, making you get hurt? Or did you also come back? And that's why you saved that pregnant woman. She finished speaking and paused for a moment. As if mocking herself, she gave a faint laugh. "I never knew in another space. The reason you liked me was because of her, or because I time traveled." This question I may never solve, but Fang Vian regretted it. I always thought every equation could find an answer through reasoning and calculation. Loving someone isn't without a solution, but perhaps I can't make your heart return to me again. In truth, I didn't want to recall the 5 years with Liu Nain, but one small insignificant thing came to mind. It was the winter of our 3rd year together. On my way back from work, while on the phone, I accidentally bumped into someone, letting out a cry. The phone happened to fall through a sewer grate into the drainage pipe. My mood instantly became extremely irritated. The cash I had left was only enough to pay for a taxi all night. The next day, I learned Liu Nain searched for me all night. I didn't understand why she did that, but to people with impure intentions from the start, we're doomed to have no good outcome. Now saying anything is useless. I woke up on an ordinary afternoon. Right before my eyes was Hawkeye Kim, head lowered, patiently wiping each of my fingers. I tilted my head to look at her, ruthlessly calling out. Hawkeye Kim's hand paused. She didn't look up. Her fingers clutching the cloth turned pale. After a moment of silence, she quickly walked out. I looked at the stark white ceiling, silently counting in my heart. At 57, she returned, her eyes red. After a thorough check confirmed I was fine. On the day of discharge, Hawkeye Kim took me to her place. She began carefully caring for me, staying by my side all day. I felt a bit guilty, saying to her, "Sorry, we haven't been together long, and am already troubling you." She seemed amused by my words, gently touching my face. She placed a bowl of soup in front of me, pretending to be annoyed, urging me to drink quickly. "Get well soon." I gave a bitter smile, shaking my head. "My ABS are long gone. If I drink more, they'll disappear completely." She got so frustrated she lost patience, holding a spoon of soup to my mouth, gently coaxing, "Come on, Little Fang Vian, open your mouth. Sister Doctor says healthy people are the most charming. And under Ha Kai Kim's care, both stern and gentle, my wounds healed. Half a year later, I met Liu Na-in at the supermarket. I was looking for Ha Kai Kim, holding a few oranges in my hand, accidentally dropping them. They rolled everywhere, finally picked up by someone nearby. It was Liu Na-in. She walked toward me step by step, placing the orange in my arms. We quietly looked at each other. I sincerely said, Liu Na-in, thank you. As the words left my mouth, Ha Kai Kim's voice rang out, honey. I quickly responded, coming, just passing by Liu Na-in, who was about to speak. As if in this vast universe, our brief encounter was inevitable, but in the end we drifted apart. That night back home, while tidying the study, I saw a framed picture in a glass cabinet. Inside was a hand-drawn cartoon character, depicting a chubby boy. The speech bubble wrote, sister. I held the picture, asking Ha Kai Kim, wanting to know when she recognized me. She only smiled, her willow brows slightly raised. Casually flipping the frame, I realized it was a photo of her, but the lens was aimed at me, the figure passing behind her. The date written on it was the day we went hiking, so the next day she sat beside me. From then on, our story opened a new chapter. The end. Dear friends, please like and follow. Koinu Yen Review will continue updating novels and comics.